Hi everyone, welcome for this webinar on artificial intelligence and the future of financial advice. We will discuss for a little bit more than 60 minutes about different thematics, talking about ethics, talking about regulatory side, talking about best practice, all the impact and of artificial intelligence can have on financial advisory. We have our three guest speakers with us this evening, with Biba Homsi first, ladies first, which is you are a lawyer in Luxembourg and Switzerland. You are specialized in crypto assets, compliance and regulatory matters. You have been quite active in the blockchains and crypto space since 2015. And you have your own boutiques between Luxembourg and Geneva, where you provide different advice on those different fields. Before that, you was heading teams at the FINMA, the Swiss regulators, and you had a position of chief compliance for a bank in Switzerland. And you was in charge of Luxembourg and European branch for this Swiss bank. Sorry. You have been designated as one of the 30 worldwide crypto experts by the International World Economic Forum. I am quite jealous. I was the 31st. Plus several thousand. So you know perfectly the subject, and we will discuss regulatory and other things with you. Payman, you are more on the academic side and different things talking about artificial intelligence. You come from Turkey first, but are active now in Luxembourg. Where you work for the Luxembourg National Data Service as an innovation and partnership manager. You know everything about artificial intelligence, of course. Before that, you hold a position as digitalization and artificial intelligence expert for the Luxembourg Institute of Science and Technology. And we will discuss about best practices and all those different things with you, talking about artificial intelligence. Coming to you, Andrew, you evolve in the Luxembourg financial centers for many years now, in the bank and insurance side, as a manager of business transformation and as chief quality officer, and now you developed your own activity to train the artificial intelligence on different fields, on different landscape, discussing about different things with many corporates that you advise. To all our attendees, if you have any question, do not hesitate to use the different tools. So the Q&A, the chat, to ask all your questions to our attendees. We are also live in YouTube, where you can comment the video and use the chat to ask all your questions. And I will try to transmit and to forward all your questions to our attendees. Maybe first, to start our discussion on artificial intelligence, we talk a lot about artificial intelligence. We all know that this will be a game changer for all our activity, and especially for an activity like the financial advice. There is ethical and regulatory consideration to take when we talk about artificial intelligence. Maybe starting with you, Biba, what are the ethical implications of using artificial intelligence when we make financial advice or when we deal with finance in general?
I thought about it, and there was a lot that came in my mind, and I decided to pick at least two that I found maybe you're going to say that I kick in an open door already, but the transparency, I would say first, the transparency, how the results were provided, how to explain. You know, in the financial market supervision, we had MiFID 1, MiFID 2, and you have to explain and ensure that the products typically are correctly offered to the right person. So I think if you don't understand how the AI find the appropriate results and how the financial decisions are made, for instance, whether you choose to offer these bonds with high yield or not, that could potentially endanger the client's financial situation, the liability of the bank or the asset manager that is offering it using AI engineering. And also it would potentially offer a lack of trust or trigger a lack of trust. The second one that I thought that was interesting was, there was, and if I understood correctly, because I read a lot and I tried also myself some of them. I had tried one with a robot advisor typically. I think depending how you train the AI model on the historical data and also the data on specific groups, you may actually not provide the best solution when you recommend financial products. Let's say because the minority in the training program wasn't sufficiently represented. And so basically, if there typically some racial minority, or maybe it's known, for instance, that women do not invest as much as men, and they are more conservative, how do you say, more careful. But actually, my profile is not careful, or the opposite. That's something that is that may have also implications. So it's less on the regulatory side, but also on the ethical side. If you assume some bias and you already provide, because you are trained like this, market segmentation, you may result in let's say suboptimal advice. So I think this was the two that I thought about. Of course, you have always the same issues in AI, but transparency in the results and maybe ensuring there is no bias in the minorities and the segmentations, I think that could be important.
About train the machine, I would say, to better fit the different needs of the clients. What is your perspective talking about that?
You speak to me as well, because it was cut a little bit.
No, I was just talking to Andrew, who also trains the machine.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, it is. I think Biba raised a very important point about well, I would call it the reliability, let's say. One of the main issues at the moment with AI is that you may, and then I turn to Payman about that, but you may ask the same question twice and get maybe not a completely different answer, but a slightly different answer. And it is completely true that if you ask an AI that is a generic AI, like a ChatGPT or Claude or whatever other major one, you're asking questions to an AI that is so large that he will miss the different models, like Biba said, like minorities or things like that. So it is rather important for each company to train their own AI or some AI, let's say, in order to be able train them with their own data and all records in order to get as accurate as possible on the answers that they could have. Having said that, it's also at the moment AI are not very much used into finance. Most of AI are used for, let's say, technical fields like coding or other things. So there's still a lot of things to be done within finance, but we do have to be very careful of being able to provide accurate, reliable, and answers that are being capable of being duplicated all the time.
Payman, we were talking about technical things. You were used to use AI for cancer research before evolving in other fields. What about the usage of artificial intelligence and ethical or ethics, as we can say?
Yeah, so it's really a fundamental issue when it comes to artificial intelligence and dealing with difficulties that both researchers and the users are facing. Because as Biba rightfully mentioned, the training data is super important. If the training data is consisted of a kind of minority data, which may cause some biased results, so the AI will just produce a model. That model will do everything based on that. Let's call it a mal-trained process that it had. So in terms of black box analysis, nowadays in the scientific world, researchers are trying to understand how they can make it explainable. And the explainability of AI will help, especially legal advisors and the lawmakers can understand how to handle it, how to manage it, how to limit it, or how to open the doors for better AI and better modeling. So the issue in here is really depending on the data and the structure of data. So that's something that if we look from regulatory perspective, it is not just about AI, it's about regulations for the data as well. Because data accessibility and the quality of data is super important. It must be handled and regulated and organized. So for sure, whatever you see from the machine, which is a metallic things, to be honest, and whatever you see from that is a kind of reflection of the insights coming from data. So if your data is better organized, better managed, regulated and governed, so the machine learning and artificial intelligence will try to give better results out of that. So that's super important, especially when we talk about the training data, to mention about the privacy, because there is a kind of sensitive, let's call it, trade-off between feeding the machine to learn from our data and keeping our privacy, which is our luxury. Yeah, so that's super important to find that trade-off. And there are a lot of techniques. You asked me about techniques like data anonymization is one of them, that simply you can make the data useful at the same time the data can be anonymized and not disclosing any privacy. So everything is going back to the data. So AI is a good guy, actually, but the issue is that it's the way that we train it. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much, Payman. I come back to you, Andrew, talking about the confidentiality of the data and the security of the data. You evolve with different market players in Luxembourg. how a financial advisor can be sure and ensure the security and confidentiality of the client data?
That's a very good question. There's different aspects. First of all of your data can be either in your own servers or in the cloud, and most companies at the moment are trying to use their clouds in order to store their data. And lately in Luxembourg, I think it's the CSSF, so the Commission de sécurité du secteur financier in French. And since December, if I recall well, they're adopting the Clarence platform. That is a merger, I think, between Google, Proximus, and Lux Connect, and which is not connected, I think, to the cloud. The idea with that, what they're trying to do at the moment, while we're testing, is to use all the Google tools, AI tools, in order to see if there's some opportunity for savings, for improvements. So I think the data is one thing, and I think the good data is another thing. Training the machine is another thing, but keeping your data safe in Luxembourg, it's really one of the big issue at the moment. And having how would you call that, a cloud, sovereign cloud, let's say, a sovereign cloud, which is not, what you have to understand also, just jumping, and maybe Biba can back me up on this one, is that I think one of the laws back in US is that if US is under attack, they can access any single cloud in the US, and that means all the data from Luxembourgish or European people, that data that are stored over there. So it is very important that organizations such as finance in Europe, or mainly in Luxembourg, let's say, using sovereign clouds in order to protect your data. I was yesterday working with ChatGPT, asking him questions, and he answered to me, say, "Hey, how are you doing with your new project, by the way?" And said, "How do you know about that project?" He said, "Because I got a good memory." I say, "Oh God, okay, he knows exactly what I'm doing." Because I told him a couple of weeks back that I was working on a specific project. So now probably Elon Musk is doing the same project as I do. If it's maybe a good point for me. But yeah, that's it. The idea is making sure that you use the right AI, the right trained AI, and you save your data that are not accessible in any cases, and that means in case of United States being under attack also.
Biba, is it a consideration that you received also from your different clients as a lawyer advisory? You are muted.
Sorry. Oh, yes. I think the confidentiality of data is the very first one, because we have in Europe the GDPR. It's very difficult to have this data that is aligned with GDPR actually, for two reasons. The first one is that to get a result on, like, using a robo-advisor or something like that, you would need to have as much as information, and this client financial data are really sensitive data sometimes, because so you have a specific degree of data in GDPR. Some are considered as personal, but the more you give details, some of them are considered as sensitive, like gender and so on. And if you provide data to be really as much as accurate as you can, you need also to provide credit history, risk profile, which are very sensitive, and you can't just do general recommendation. Otherwise, you don't need this kind of tools. So they will for sure give info by market data, market outlook, and so on. But they will also ask you for specific data and how do they safeguard this data. And that's really, really important. And of course, because it's not that new, you don't have like, let's say, how you would say, industry standards, for instance. So the confidentiality is key. And to be honest, in my small opinion, I don't think most of these AIs are GDPR compatible, although they say they are. And one thing that I am a bit more skeptical is also how much do they have access, who has access, and you were speaking about it before by joking about Elon Musk, but how much and who actually can view and manipulate the data that you provided and the sensitive data. This is really key. You can use in ChatGPT, for instance, the ephemeral view when it's anonymized and they don't get it, but they've been so shut out by the public because the very first option they gave, I don't know the name in English, it says chat ephemeral, so it says temporary, I assume, temporary chat. They said you can do it, it's anonymized, and then after 1 or 2 months they say, yeah, ChatGPT for national security reasons, keep your information even if it's temporary for at least, I think, 30 days. The mention that what you said about getting information on the cloud, it's for national security reason. It's following 2001. And so, yes, they can have access, at least from what I learned when I was looking at FINMA. I was also exchanging data, so we thought about look at that as well. So they can have data. So they being the government, of course, but this is also like having a snowball effect because you have a huge lake of data. You are not sure who has access controls and what type of data they have and how long they keep it. So sure, there are challenges in this area, way more than on other areas actually.
Continuing with you, Biba, what step can a financial advisor take to mitigate the potential legal liability for inadequate financial advice resulting from artificial intelligence recommendation, I would say?
Yeah, so what we did was to assist in the due diligence of the tool from a legal risk perspective. So you can have, of course, and this is the basic, the security due diligence. But in addition, you have to check, you have to do a due diligence on the AI and trying to vet for the solution, if I can say, to see how much. We work with the audit department because they wanted to get all the information. So first of all, I think it was Andrew who said, first you have to get a very good data and get the data. Or yeah, the first thing is that when we got the data from the clients to do the audit on suitability, it took more time of getting the right data and the right format and getting the data from all the banks and other clients. and then run the audit and run it on the code and analyze it was just a little piece of time compared to the rest. But what I wanted to say is that we run two things. We run a supervised AI when we were clear on how it was trained and understood how they would analyze the suitability of each client. And then we run in a very safe environment an unsupervised AI tool, which actually you don't know how they think about, and they try to find a solution about the closest neighbor and see what is the best classification of each client. And for this one, we actually had to develop afterwards an AI that would supervise the unsupervised AI, which was very fun. And that's more on the compliance and let's say compliance side. And on the legal side, you know, at the end, it's a lot about contractual disclaimer, ensuring that people understand that there is no guarantee in the outcome, that you can use it, and for sure that you will have a human that check afterwards and have the oversight, which would limit the liability of the company using it. Just always having a human, as much as possible, a human that understands what has been done and how, and to what extent.
Peyman, I come to you with the same question. You make a lot of application of artificial intelligence in cancer research, as I already mentioned. There is, of course, legal consideration and ethical consideration doing this. What can the financial advisor take about these different experience to better mitigate the potential risk using artificial intelligence to make financial recommendation to a particular client?
Yeah, sure. Just I want to recap and go back to the point that we have recently the AI Act, and they are talking about 4 levels of risks, which is an unacceptable one, and high risk, the generative AI related risk, which is a kind of limited risk, they call it. And finally, we have no obligation part, a level that you can share your data. For sure, when the data is there and it is shared, and especially like you share your name with ChatGPT, it is not going anywhere. It will be remembered by AI, and the data will be there forever. It will not be erased anymore. The data created. So what is important is that considering from the national security perspective that you mentioned, Biba, that when ChatGPT wanted to operate in Europe, they consider their regions, that in these regions the data is going to be stored there. But in any cases, the main model, which is let's call it analyzing all this data, somehow it is still in the United States, and for sure you can extract whatever you want from that one. But from AI Act, they consider it as a kind of a low or limited risk. For sure, if you share some sensitive data with artificial intelligence, like you copy paste all the profile of your client that you want to give some advices about, I don't know, their investment policy, and put it in a generative AI, it will be there forever. So don't do that. And coming back to how to handle it, again, dealing with the instances and considering the cases that you can have access to that. So first thing first, talk to your DPO and be sure that this data can be shareable by third parties, that in here we call it the AI models. That's the first step. The second step you need to consider is from your understanding. Would you like to share this data if it was your own profile and your data with somebody else? That's the second one. And the third one is trying to categorize the data that you want to work on it. For example, if you want to share a salary of a person or risk acceptance level of somebody and trying to give them some advices, try to somehow categorize it in a way that you hide it somehow from exact numbers that AI can take it from you and associate it with the name of the person. When it comes to when we talk about sensitivity, genomics data is the most valuable data of humanity that you can share. You cannot imagine how much of information and data is there. But for sure, the added value that researchers, after analyzing this genomics data, can have, like predicting some cancers, finding some remedies, could be enormous. So we need to find a trade-off. There is no solution that I can provide and advise a kind of advisor to use while they are using artificial intelligence. But in terms of sensitive data, be careful. Don't use names and don't use IDs. Don't use people's scanned passport. Don't use people's salary pay lists and etc. when you are pushing the data online. So these are the process. In terms of applications, there are a lot of applications that you can use with AI in terms of giving advices, like understanding the profile of person and giving them a kind of portfolio that they can invest. And this is one use case of artificial intelligence that you can simply have it.
Andrew, you train the machine, especially for an insurance company. How do you deal with this trade-off between providing information, but also ensure that this information stay fit for the job, I would say, and not in the memory of the machine?
It's good Lord, that's a difficult question.
Sorry.
That's a very difficult question in the sense there's out of my mind here. There's a I think it's a work trend index from Microsoft. I think it's Microsoft, yeah. That states that I think 75% of knowledge workers are currently using AI tools, and that is roughly 80% of them is without their formal, I mean, their boss approval. Okay, so basically, 75% of white collars are probably sharing important data at the moment with ChatGPT or Claude or Mistral or
DeepSeek.
or DeepSeek. My God, yes, you're right. Well, any of those. I mean, of course, Microsoft and that is something that you will never change because human being, although they don't want to automate their task, the easy one, and they're not working on that at the moment, all the high-value tasks, they're asking the AI to do it for themselves. So that could be uploading the 25, 26 company strategy and say, what can you tell me about that? And I got a couple of friends of mine in Luxembourg working also in AI who can tell you what is the strategy of some of the companies because they find it in ChatGPTs. So basically, on one hand, it's too late to do anything because your employees are already using AIs and uploading some important data, like the name, the bank account, the whatever investment they're doing into the cloud. So either you cut off everything, but they'll find a way to get the work done by an AI anyway. On the other hand, you create your own AI like some companies are doing at the moment by training an open resourced AI such as Mistral 7B, which is a very good model as well. And like we say in England, if you can't beat them, join them. So join your employees by providing them the tools which is safe to use for any type of questions, but making sure that it is not being shared with the rest of the world.
Makes sense, of course.
So if I may add something and build on what Andrew mentioned, actually, yeah. So when we talk about AI, we don't talk about just about generative AI, people using ChatGPT, and it doesn't mean that you will put all the data and trying to understand what is the output or what is the investment policy. Many companies using actually these generative AI technologies for creating their own in-house and premises AI models that feeding their businesses, even people creating their own personal AI tools that they can use it. And for sure, somehow, as everything is on the cloud, you are sharing most of your data with people. But there is a concept that they call it federated learning. And if you are a member of a large institution, for sure, you have the possibility of have a kind of a federated AI learning that you just use the AI model, which is specified for your premises, and your data will be pushed into your model that you can have control on it. And for sure, this data is not going to be shared by the mother company and the centralized system that the data is pushing there and creating a kind of a honeypot there. Yeah. So there are a lot of solutions that you can. This is a matter of investment, matter of literacy, and it's the matter of use cases that you have. If your use cases are large enough, you can create your own in-house platform and you can benefit of it.
Biba, I come back to you talking about, you were talking about supervised AI or non-supervised AI. Did you hear mention of an audited AI that a financial advisor can use, or is it something that does not exist for the moment?
I didn't hear about one. The only thing is that it was what was developed was more within the bank. They as Perman was saying before, I mean, you can build internally in order not to have your data that goes outside. But that's that I was reflecting on what was just said. It's not that easy to build your own things to get your data. I mean, I do understand that people want to try and to see how these tools are developed and use ChatGPT, because it really helps in somehow. So people are really tempted, and if the company is not developing tools that are fast enough, people are actually trying to use it outside. Of course, everybody would say, I know it's confidential. I'm very careful when I'm doing it, but still, you have plenty of people that give one information relating to the company. Then you have all the information that comes as a puzzle, and then really help bad behaviors on internet. So I don't think it's necessary to say to people, don't do it. because of your data, but more pushing it to have internal solutions that help them getting an efficient solution. So a third-party provider, for sure, it's interested. But I think it's more interesting when you have you can maybe build something with the help of someone. No? I mean, with experts. I mean, security experts. I'm not talking about legal or compliance. Really, security experts that helps you extract your data in a safe environment. And run the tool within the environment. It's not easy, but it will be probably better than just say to your employees, be careful, don't use it, or it's blocked, or something like that.
Yeah. We'll continue with the best practice using AI, even if we already talked about it, developing internal things and different projects, maybe in-house instead of staying with open source or free solution you can find on internet. We know that the financial industry is a highly regulated industry, having to deal with a lot of regulation. You mentioned the AI Act, PEMAN. There is also DORA. There is also MiCA for the crypto assets. There is full of regulation in the financial industry. What are the best practices for integrating artificial intelligence technology into that financial industry? I come back to you, Andrew, maybe to open the discussion.
To integrate finance into AI, that's what you said.
Or the opposite, AI into finance.
Oh, right, okay. It's well, it's like I mean, like we say about the risk categories in finance for AIs. So what we talked about the AI Act. My belief is probably to start small with minimal risk system, but what employees, banks, finance employees are desperate to use, or maybe not desperate, that's not a good word, but let's say analyzing what exactly most employees in the back office or in the front office, why are they using currently AI, open AI, and then understanding what will be the first steps, the first development helps to be done, to be created, in order for the employees not to use any more outside AIs, but to use internal AIs that they will develop using open source technology with their own data and secured on their own system, or at least on sovereign clouds. So that's most company and doing that at the moment. I think getting back to this CSSF, this is exactly what they're doing. So some of their data, I think, I'm not fully sure about that, but some of the data are transferred to Clarence. And they got some experts in the CSSF that currently analyzing what are the tools, what tools could be used, AI tools on the data that will help their employees to do better quality job, efficiency jobs, I mean, and of course, client-oriented jobs better. So start small, and then in the minimal risk systems of AI Act, and then goes to chatbots or robot advisor, which is, I think it's quite limited risk as long as there's a transparency disclosure. But I mean, like any banks, all we want, or all they want, is return on investment. And I remember about 10 or 12 years ago, it was what we call the robot age. and working with some of the big finance company at the time in Luxembourg, everybody was robotizing the back offices. And what happened is that not many of them succeeded because the return on investment wasn't there. So start small, get the return on investment, and start bigger. And like we said earlier, doing with your own data, supervised, unsupervised, self-supervised, reinforced, or semi-supervised, or whatever model you want to use in order to get the most accurate answers and helping your employee doing their jobs better in order to help their clients, your clients better.
Yep.
So,
In your opinion, for a smallest advisor or an independent guys, would such a tool be affordable? Can they deploy such a solution, or is it impossible today?
no, it is. It is. Like I said, basically I've been using for my projects Mistral. So why I use Mistral is first of all because they don't keep the data, and some of the data I'm using are quite sensitive. So they're either very personal data or the government data. So I didn't want them to be in the cloud, that's for sure. But Mistral is also open source technology, so I'm not the expert in that, but the one I'm using is the 7B, which is an AI that can fit on your MacBook Pro. It's 20 gig, and with the tools that has been developed, or I'm actually developing as well, you can train this AI on your MacBook to do the job that you're doing on the daily basis, basically.
Yep.
So it's not that expensive. What I'm saying is that if it runs on a MacBook in a company, in a finance company, you might need one NVIDIA card. A bit expensive, but only one is okay.
You agree with that, Payman, on your side?
Yep, actually, I can echo that, and I can add something. Before adding something to what Andrew mentioned, I need to flash back to the previous question that before generative AI, actually, banking industry was creating their own AIs, and there was a huge competition among large banks. The chase from, I mean, America, Citibanks, etc., in Europe and Chinese banks. Lots of applications, especially speaking about the operations to optimize, speaking about fraud detection, anti-money laundering, and know your customer. They were really working on that. And then generative AI came, and the concerns that is coming with that, specifically talking about the privacy, really got high hype afterwards, and that's a real concern that the data is in danger. So I mean, banking industry was already doing their own platforms in-house. The second one is that you said how people can handle it. If I look from just European perspective, now we have AI Factory. And AI Factory now is in Europe. They started, and one of their flagships project is highly related to the finance, and they are going to develop the technologies. And for sure, that's for use. And simply you as a client, you can have access to that, and you can collaborate, and you can develop your own system. If you are a large bank, if you are a large firm, if even you are an individual, you can show interest and deal with that. That's the 2 points that I wanted to mention. And coming back to the process that you mentioned, how if there is a kind of need for integrating the technology, let's call it artificial intelligence, into finance, what should be the main steps? From my perspective, everything starts with a goal. You ask a question that, wait a minute, what is the problem? then you try to find the related data for that. If I am an individual and I want to be successful in this, let's call it advisory competition in banking world and financial landscape, the first thing first, I look at the need that I have. The second, the data set that might be available and I can handle it. The third one, as Andrews already mentioned, the algorithm, because all algorithms are not performing well. And even sometimes if you have the best data, the algorithm can just destroy it. Then I come with proof of concept that, as you mentioned, small project. And the proof of concept will give me a lot of notions to understand if I can turn this idea that I have with an added value and sell it to my clients and help them. Yeah, and then understanding your AI, I mean, explainable AI is super important if you want to grow up and scale up. And for that one, you need to understand if your black box is using your data in a right way. So try to understand if your black box is doing well, because you are from the domain, you are the financial expert, and at the same time you are using AI. You can understand the black box better. So slowly moving from that part, you go to the territory of BIBA. You enter to the regulatory compliance part, and you say that, okay, wait a minute, I developed this proof of concept. If it based on AI, it is okay, but is that compliant or not? Am I going to jail or not? That's a question. So you need to talk to people from the domain and the experts. Then slowly you move towards the scaling up. For scaling up, you need to have cross-functional teams. That's one of the main issues that when I approach to different organizations with their issues, I see that there is a kind of infringement and disconnection among the teams and groups in even departments, interdepartments in some even large banks, that they are not connected to each other and they're not communicating well. So kind of building cross-functional teams is super important, because you are about to turn your proof of concept to a scale up large application and tool which is doing well, and finally you make a cybersecurity check to be sure that nobody is going to hack and steal your client's data. This is the way that you can integrate artificial intelligence, starting from small, going to the let's say commercial scale with the small steps. That's the way.
Coming back to you, Biba, and to your territory on the regulatory and compliance side, what are the red flags to consider when you start to implement this kind of solution to advise your client? Should you disclose that you are using the machine for your advisory? Should you follow the machine when they recommend the products that you don't master, for an example? How do you deal with the machine and with being in a client-facing position?
If I can, Patrick, I just want to go back to payment. I think
you
it
can.
was a very good explanation from A to Z. Lawyers or compliance officer will always tell you, you have to take legal and compliance into consideration. However, I do think that we arrive at the end, or almost at the end, because otherwise you don't develop your tool and it's gonna be a show blocker. So I think you have to find legal and compliance officer that are pragmatic and that will answer to your question, to your second question. You know, I was thinking when I was hearing payment, I think we are in a turning with it began with DORA, a little less with the crypto, but more on DORA, and now on the AI Act. We are turning more on the operational and resilience aspect, the risks aspect, the cybersecurity, a little bit less on the compliance and what we would call the legal and the liability, of course. And I will answer to your question, Patrick. But I think when I was hearing you, Beman, I thought, I think there is a shift now. There is a shift on, let's say, operational risks, reputational risks for sure. But it was all about compliance, all about anti-money laundering, financial terrorism, especially if you are in Lux. We've been traumatized by FATF visits. So it was all about that. And we have this shift about AI and how to handle this beast.
Yeah.
And that goes into how to then protect. And of course, you have legal disclaimer. But I think before that, you really need to discuss on the operational resilience.
Yeah.
And then taking into account for sure, advising about how you use AI, doing the disclaimer, doing your due diligence on the tool, and so on. I would not say we don't care anymore about legal lawyers and compliance officer. I think I'm gonna have still a lot of work, but still, I think if you have to have your priority in the right setup, the operational risk, cyber. Yeah, someone said ESG. I saw something popping up as well. But I mean, yeah, more the risk, the fraud, the cyber attacks, and then it's all, yeah, and then it goes into compliance and legal. But that's cherry on top for me.
Are you a pragmatic lawyer
I
yourself?
hope so. I hope so. I'm not sure. I'm still a lawyer, and the compliance officer, so double effect. But yeah, definitely. Now, as I said before, I think you need to avoid losing the human touch. By actually getting, even for the compliance side, you can use AI for a lot of automation and a lot of getting into this routine of checking, analyzing, and getting the right format to be more efficient. So what you can apply in personal, in financial advice, or it's good. It helps you to be more efficient, but then you get the human touch as well. You have to have the second control, or the legal disclaimer are a nice touch, but then you still need to see the whole vision. And I think the same for actually the financial advisors as well. Huh? I mean, you can help and having a good tool, but you need to get still the human touch.
Yeah. We should keep in mind that, first of all, financial advice is built on trust and a long relationship with the client.
Mhm.
And of course, you have to deal with. And another advice I would have for attendees, when ChatGPT, Claude, or Mistral, or whatever the machine give you an answer, maybe the second question you can ask to the same machine is why I should not deploy this solution, just to get the pro and co of the different things. To continue our discussion, and I come back to you, Biba, on the regulatory side. Did you identify specific things with the different interaction you get with the different corporate you advise when people want to deploy artificial intelligence solution internally when talking about financial aspects of the financial industry?
So in terms of tools, you mean? What
Yeah.
has been developed?
Yeah. Is there a red flag to consider over GDPR, over DORA, when you deal with artificial intelligence tools for the company who want to deploy a solution?
I think we already touched upon it. I mean, that's for sure the compliance with GDPR, the compliance to simply with MiFID. If you, as I said before, if you use to provide a recommendation, you have to ensure that it really complies to avoid this kind of bias and ensure that they do understand what type of clients they have. That's definitely something important. Yeah, taking into account the AI Act, so the AI Act is very it's very large. So it would be on specific cases. And one thing that I realize is the training, actually. So you can do a lot of trainings on AI, but as long as you don't use the tools, it's useless. I had I'm sitting on boards of directors from some institution, and one of them actually was really interesting. However, I would say half of the presentation was a PowerPoint from a big audit firm, and it was useless because what I really want is if I am not using it or I'm not allowed to use as a training, I want at least a demonstration on how you can use it, what can be the failure, what can be the risk, and so on. So that's very funny how actually we are going in a direction where you can think in 3D and all the things that you can do, but trainings are still PowerPoint deck that are absolutely not moving, and you can't do anything. So I mean, the red flag for me is that if you want to allow your employees to do something on AI, just try to help them by doing it by themselves, even if it's in a safe environment, but something that they can use and try. And that's for me a big red flag. If you say, "Oh, I did a training," that this is the slides.
Perfectly understandable. Andrew, we talk a lot about the different tools, internal tools, external tools, supervised AI, not supervised AI. Talking about the usage people can do of artificial intelligence, we talk a lot about risk mitigation when we talk about when we talk about financial industry. Can AI be useful in this specific part, for example, for a financial advisor, making a simulation on a portfolio, creating things to better advise the customer?
Yes, I will say yes. As a matter of fact, you can do so many things with AI that is quite unbelievable. I myself developed some softwares, like I said, without any knowledge on software development. And Claude helped me developing a full softwares and website and things like that. And every day when I wake up and I ask Claude something, I'm absolutely amazed about what he's doing. On the other hand, there's plenty of things you can ask an AI, and I'm thinking about a presentation that I've seen a few weeks back from, well, once again, a Chinese company. I can't remember the name, but it's called Manus. I think you can get on their website. It's called manus.im or something like that. And what they are currently using, well, we're not quite sure if it's real or not, because it's kind of a miraculous tool that just came out. The guy said we were having a coffee at Starbucks and we designed that tool, right? So it's kind of very, very subjective, let's say. But Manus, on their second or third example, I think, it's a AI agent. Basically, it's something like that will create a lot of things. It will, and one of the tasks he's been doing on their presentation is really to design the full financial report of one specific company, I think. So it's been creating a website automatically with a lovely dashboard with all the important information about the specific companies. So yes, you can do a lot of things in various environments, and especially on Finance Advisor, for people to find the right informations and to compile them in a manner that is understandable by anyone. But once again, Manus, for example, is getting all the information in the cloud, in internet, and we're not quite sure that it's very legit, let's say. So once again, with AI agents, you will be able to do, or you are able to do hell of a things, but you have to be very careful on how you train your agents as well.
Peyman, I come back to you. Can an artificial intelligence tools can help to predict the future of financial markets, for example, from your perspective?
So, yeah, actually, this was a topic of today. I was discussing with a friend before. I'm very surprised at this. So, for sure, it cannot predict everything of the future about financial things, but for sure, it has its own let's call it scope and prediction. For example, it wouldn't be so difficult to predict the crash that 2-3 days ago happened with President Trump's actually tariffs and applying those tariffs for whole the world. It was not so difficult to predict it, but for sure, for us as a human being with limited access to billions of pages and rows of data around the world, which is text and voice and image, it would be impossible to be sure 100%. But you can be sure with AI around 80, 70, 60, 99%. It depends on the accuracy of that it could predict that there will be a huge crash, because we knew that the guy said he would put tariffs before getting elected. The guy pushed telling that he would put tariffs, and the guy was preparing to declare it. So for sure, and it happened, and it took like 30 minutes that market reacts to that. And during that 30 minutes, you can't imagine how much of money is getting transferred around the world, buying and selling happening with this high frequency trading. And for sure, I am sure that AI can predict at least that 1 or 2 minutes before the things happening. But in order to understand the trend of future, again, I go back to the sentence that I mentioned. Unfortunately, the organizations and the people, those are holding these large language models, the generative AI models, somehow they are playing with the brain of these large language models, and that's one of the things that they are playing. I mean, don't predict accurate enough. So people, this is not an advice, to be honest. I don't do that. Don't go after that. People, those are using this DeepSeek. They predict really well the stock markets nowadays. I'm witnessing that. But people, those are using ChatGPT, they face with a lot of difficulties. Why? Because somebody playing with the brain of ChatGPT with cutting and manipulating it. So if the AI is robust and trustworthy, it will be able to predict a lot of things, to be honest. And for sure, not the future of all the financial activities, but at least some specific cases. Those are based on time series, based on text, based on NLP, and based on text analysis. They can somehow handle it and give you a point. By the way, we shouldn't mistake an AI. AI is not going to make decision. It is an assistant. So we need to understand that human plus AI is valuable, not human versus AI, or let's call it AI alone. So yeah, it can give you some predictions, and this is what one of the activities that it is doing. Because when you look at the AI strategy, AI has four strategies that always need to consider. The one is automation, because it is enabling automation. The other one is decision making, which is one of the human behavior. The third one is customization, and the fourth one is value proposition that AI is doing. So prediction is in the core of all these four activities.
Coming back to you, Biba, now, not on the regulatory side, but what impact does AI have on job roles today in the financial industry?
I think, as I said before, I think it's about the efficiency. Typically, client data, checking all the forms and checking whether the data are correctly inputted. We run with one of the bank, Nocia, where the AI was trying to see if they were, it was for a fraud case. We knew that there was some fraud case, and we wanted to see in the documents where it was added in written, in addition to what was inputted, and we could find some fraud as well, and which led actually to checking to understand that one of the relationship manager had how you say, filled a client onboarding file instead of the clients, to get the client sign quicker. But that was by analyzing all the different client onboarding files and checking which one. And we realized that the way the ERM, it was on several clients, and this is why we could see how the ERM ticked was very similar in several clients that didn't know each other. And we could find the fraud. So you see that you can imagine that if it goes in this direction, you can quickly find clients that are missing just for the onboarding, not for the fraud, but just to be more efficient on the back office. The same for the compliance officer, by the way. There are so many false that the compliance officer's time. So everything that is very redundant, I think you can clearly cut by 2 or 3 times the times that are spent in large companies like fund administration. It's gonna be huge.
Andrew, same question. Do you see an impact on the role of the financial advisor using AI?
My belief is that the role may not change, as most people, I mean, in my age class, let's say, still believe in human connection. So in that case, it will not change, but AI will allow advisor to go quicker. And like we say, automating a task, like I mentioned with Manus, automating full financial reportings. So we'll be able very soon to do the things we're doing faster in order to get the input to make the right decisions in order to advise our clients. But having said that, it's also what's going to happen with the new generations coming into finance that do not want to have a financial advisor and want to do it fully automated with an AI. So the first one who's managing to fully automate financial advising, well, he will probably get some market share, but you'll never know. Or he will be stopped by someone.
Peyman, come back to you. Will AI impact on the positive or negative side on the relationship between two people? So the financial advisor from one side and the client on the opposite, from your perspective.
So for me, for sure, the job and the roles will really get impacted, but I don't see it in a negative way, because what financial advisor is trying to do is trying to help. If you give a tool and they feel that this tool is really useful because they help better, then that's a positive impact. But that's a bad news if the tool takes the place of the user and the user gets fired. Yeah, that's a bad news. But it happened through the history. I mean, for sure, AI is a kind of fundamental change. This is nothing that can be similar to what happened in the first, second, third industrial revolutions. I mean, I'm not going to compare AI with the car industry and automobile industry and tell that, oh, automobile came and then people created new jobs like mechanics, yeah? But still, I think humans' emotional intelligence is still there, and it will take long years that AI can somehow clone it and somehow do similar things, especially when it comes to human relationships. So for me, AI will turn to a very powerful tool in the hands of financial advisory, but it depends on the financial advisors themselves, that they need to scale up. They need to know how to use this tool. They need to know the weak points of this tool, the powerhouses of this tool, which is AI, and use it in a way that they can help their clients. Because we cannot stay and be conservative against AI just because it can change the jobs. Because what about quantum computing, which is coming tomorrow then? So if it comes there, then nothing to do for humanity then, yeah? So, but still, human is there. Through the history, they proved that human always got around the things and found how to use the things. Human is using everything on the planet, from animals to the objects, yeah? They are using it. And I'm sure human will find a way to use this AI as a servant and assistant.
Thank you very much. Biba, you work a lot on blockchain and all those different things. How will AI impact also the traditional financial market structures itself and the asset classes that we can find on these markets?
Without a doubt, really without a doubt. It has all the potential to completely disrupt the traditional asset management. I mean, you can have products that are way more customized. You can have, I was reading a comment from on the Q&A about the impact of how AI would considered at the turmoil we are at the moment. Typically, not all the markets are impacted. It was funny how gold was impacted and then rebounds because it's gold with the market at the moment. So that could be typically, you can think about structured product or even product that are personalized, which can take prediction also for your specific jurisdiction or location or your economic situation. I would say before the Ukraine crisis and after the Ukraine crisis, how trade finance or commodities training were impacted and which product they would be interested in being invested is not the same. Typically, think about private equity. I mean, the impact of the economy on private equity or macroeconomy on private equity is huge. So I say without a doubt. Now, I think like any other technology, you need to go segment by segment, market segment, just location, and so on.
Potential impact on the tokenization of the asset and the cryptocurrency, perhaps facilitating the monitoring or the check of the blockchain through the AI and maybe disrupting the market structure that we have today.
So I'm being very, very cautious by merging AI and crypto. I've seen several projects this past year on AI and crypto, and I can think about two that are really powerful by adding the technology, the transfer of data, and the market prediction for a specific area that is really, really interesting. I've seen also cloud, a decentralized cloud with AI. That was really interesting. Now, having said that, you have a lot of buzzword when you just said tokenization, crypto, AI. So you have to analyzing. I know I'm supposed to be a crypto fan, and I do love crypto. I mean, that's for sure. Nobody would say the opposite. I've been there for 10 years now, but I'm very very cautious for which stand, for what application you want to use both of them. And add both of them, do the combination between both of them.
Good. We are close to the end, if I am not mistaken, of the webinar. Don't know, Stefka, if you have some questions that I missed, just tell me.
No, thank you. There are no questions over here.
Okay, so as a conclusion, what would be the several tips you want to share with our attendees today using AI, impact on their job, to answer also their potential fear using AI or the potential fears or concerns they can have with the future of their job? Several words you want to share with them. Andrew, I give you the floor.
I think there's, frankly, I've been working with AI for about a year or so now, and I think that every day I'm amazed about what it's capable of, and really amazed. I mean, personally, I usually wake up by 6 o'clock, 5 or 6 o'clock, and before I made AI, all I was doing in the morning was having my coffee and reading Le Monde also financial advisor. And now what I'm doing is just coding on AI. Brilliant. So it changed me a lot, and I think it will change the world a lot. I don't think we need to fear so much about it, because we need to embrace it. And yes, it will change some of the jobs, but I do believe it's more likely to the better and not to the worse, like a lot of people fear about it. But it's probably the way some of us are, like being very positive and embracing things and innovations, and not seeing what could go wrong, let's say. But I'd rather embrace AI, but be careful about it at the same time. That's it.
Yep.
Eman, if you want to continue.
Yep. Just I fully agree with what Andrew mentioned, and going back to give some, let's call it motivational sentences, is that I am fully convinced that AI will be the helper. But for sure, this way that we are following right now is a difficult way. And if you look at there are human behind the thing, and that is the evil part. Yeah. So unfortunately, but don't forget that Rome wasn't built in a day. Yeah. So it took time, and people from domain, we call them domain experts, and people those are developing the tools are going to help each other to make this technology useful. And if you see AI around, use it, because for me, two heads are better than one head, and it can help you. You are the final decision maker. And the final point that I need to mention, if you look at financial industry at all, and if you are an individual, if you are a CEO of a huge bank, you have four objectives. The first one is increase revenue, the second one is this decreased risk, the third one is decreasing the cost, and the fourth one is adding competitive advantage. So first three ones that are okay, and you know how to deal with them, you were dealing with them for a long time as an advisor. But the fourth one is the competitive advantage, which is super important. And AI, when we call it AI, please don't limit it with generative AI. Generative AI is a very small part of artificial intelligence. AI already giving you that competitive advantage and will help you to find a way to be on top of what you are doing and get better and better with what you are doing. Going back to the example that Biba mentioned, how the AI can be used in blockchain, or let's call it cryptocurrency related. One simple example in here can give you, I mean, open the door. Yeah. So if you look at Ethereum is a crypto. Yeah. But Ethereum by itself is a wonderful technology. It's a platform that you can hide, you can encrypt your AI, which is your brain, which is your tool, which is the technology that you developed, and you don't want somebody else to have access to that. So if some AI acts, some crypto acts, some banking law or regulation comes and tells that, okay, you use this data, that's okay. You develop that AI, that's okay. But how you can secure your AI? How here I can use Ethereum to secure my AI model, that I can have access to that, and I can distribute it and federated it with the people those have access to the numbers and the keys and private keys that I define. You see, this is one simple use case of that. So don't be hesitated about the future. It will help you, and it is not going to take your jobs. I mean, it will help you to have better jobs. Go ahead.
Biba, to conclude, what is your tips that you want to share with your attendees?
Just try, really try. I didn't try Mistral. I'm gonna try it. That's the only one I didn't try. Let's see, but try, even if with fake data, but try, just try.
So it was the last word. To our attendees who have an EFPA certification, do not hesitate to respect the local rules of your national EFPA. A questionnaire is already ready if you want to collect CPD credits to maintain your certification. So according to your national EFPA, do not hesitate to ask for the link to collect your CPD credits. If you have any question, do not hesitate to contact your national EFPA. They will provide the question to EFPA Europe, and we will contact our attendees to get the answer. We will contact our speakers, sorry, to get the answer. If you want to also contact our speakers, we will contact them to know if we can disclose the contact detail, but maybe 1000% will be a little too much. So we will have to make a selection. So do not hesitate to ask all your questions in all cases to your national EFPA, and we will relay the question to our guest speakers. Thank you very much to all of you. It was really fruitful, I think, for everyone. And thank you very much for your advice and your opinion on the artificial intelligence. I hope we answer the question of our attendees. In all cases, if you have any, do not hesitate to ask. Thank you very much, and good evening to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye now.